Welcome back to 33-Year-Old Boomer ranting in the woods, or in his room, I guess. Today we're doing the Q&A. We've just hit 3,000 subscribers. Ooh, okay. A little while ago, I had a bunch of people ask questions regarding for this Q&A, so let's answer them. What is your writing process like? He's referring to my sci-fi writing. There's a link here for my main book. So I'm going to make a video where I go more in depth on this. As a brief way of answering, there is the portion of time in which I actually write is relatively small. Before it, there's this larger portion of time where I tune my mind to the ether. It's somewhere around here somewhere. It's like high up, like here. And I give my subconscious the task of building this world. And so typically the process is a few weeks of gathering information, of connecting the dots. Usually I start with a truth about the world, and then a lot of things about it are gradually built around it logically. So if you have a couple of premises about a world, you can very quickly, very effectively build a world that feels real because it is logical. Things follow logically from these presumptions that you've made. And then I end up with a massive markdown file written in NeoVim, nice. And I then go through the process of arranging all these schizo notes that I have and building a more coherent timeline, and then I go and then I fill in the missing gaps. I'm doing that right now for my second novel, Terminals. I'm going to make a video. It's going to be a very unstructured video where I go through a lot of my notes for the book, and we're going to structure the story. We're going to make it make more sense. And I'll do this on video so you can watch if you're interested. But yeah, we'll talk more about this in that video. Okay, there's quite a few here. We're not going to answer all of them, but we're going to answer some. What jobs have you had? Where have you worked? And or what did you do? How did you land these jobs? What was your last job? I've had a few different random jobs. I used to work in a kitchen for a while. Then I worked retail. I worked customer service. Some might say that it was a waste of time. However, I disagree. I think that 3.5 years of, maybe about 4 years of me talking to people greatly improved my presence, my ability to speak and communicate, because the position involved talking to people all day. And as an autist, that was very, that was something that I needed to do. If you are like me, if you're inherently like me and you're more introverted, more autistic, more sort of like not a social butterfly, having a job where you're forced to interact with people, I'd say that's a you know, if you can do that for a few months or what, you don't have to do it for 4 years, but if you can do that for a while, do it, because you need social skills. Unfortunately, or fortunately, who knows, everything is people. And so if you're not very good at talking to people, get a job where you talk to people, even if it's volunteering on the weekends. Like, do something where you talk to people and you will get a lot better at it. So when I was working retail, I was also doing freelancing on the side. I used to work as a freelance sound designer / sound engineer because I have a music engineering degree. Then that, by chance, that evolved into video editing. One of my clients needed a video editor. He asked me if I knew how to edit video because I was already doing sound for him. And I said, give me 1 day of, I'm going to learn how to use Premiere, and I'm going to get back to you. So I spent the next day literally just studying Premiere Pro, watching tutorials, playing around with it. And at the end of that day, I said, okay, send me some of the files for the next video. I'm going to do an edit. I'm not going to charge you for it. I just want to see if I can do it. And if you like it, I'll then charge you for it, and I can start doing that for you. My client agreed, and then I did the edit. They liked it, and we started working together in that capacity. In late 2019, early 2020, I actually had a photography/videography business where I was filming videos for businesses, like in offices and stuff. I was doing headshots for clients. I was doing corporate videos. I was doing a bunch of that stuff. And I remember March of 2020, I had a gig booked with a company in London, and I emailed them saying, "Hey, is the gig on still for tomorrow? Because there's this like coof thing going on." And they were like, yeah. And then like the next morning I get an email saying, "Sorry, we've been told not to come into the office." And the year and a half that I worked really hard to build this photography/videography business, it all just went away immediately. That was pretty fun. That was quite fun. I wasn't very happy with that, but luckily I had my editing, and that led to all sorts of really cool things. So I've basically been working as a freelance video editor for the past 9 years. Yeah, for the past 9 years, which has been pretty good. It's afforded me the option to travel a lot. So I've traveled a lot more than most people. In terms of like time spent abroad, like I've been traveling pretty much for half the year ever since like 2020. So that's been pretty good. I also did a short stint working in IT, and now but that was a temporary placement. And now I'm doing this. I'm doing my video editing. I'm getting better at programming in my spare time. Who knows? I'm reticent to have aspirations that are too detailed, because your plans never really work out entirely as you want them to. And so I'm just improving every day, getting smarter, getting better, writing books, making content, getting better at programming. And I'm sure there's some sort of opportunity is going to show up at some point that I can then take on. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see what this leads to. Do you plan on doing more NeoVim videos or actual programming stuff, etc.? Or more generally, do you have a plan for content, like for the kind of type of content when it comes to your channel? Yes, I do. However, there's an asterisk there. Recently, I was on Sylvan Franklin's channel in a podcast, in which he talks about this topic. We talked about the future of YouTube and where things are going. Because of AI, and because people are going to use LLMs more and more, educational content on YouTube isn't gonna do very well in the future. Both me and Sylvan agree on this, because people are just going to use LLMs to study, and so a lot of my content will be NeoVim and content programming flavored. I will do more tutorials as well. Most of the videos will be tech flavored in some way. But the content is going to revolve more around my general interests. So there's going to be content about NeoVim, about tech. There's going to be content about writing books and fiction, and about doing art. Because right now I'm nearing the end of a 30-day challenge where I want to see, okay, how good can I get at art over 1 month? Because I want to illustrate my own books. And so I wanted to see, cool, how good can I get at this if I really give it my all for the next 1 month to begin with? And so I'm going to make videos updating you on that. So yeah, the general flavor of tech, NeoVim programming is going to stay in the content, but I don't know what the ratio will be. I don't know if the majority of the content is not going to be tech tutorials, purely because that is going away on YouTube in general. And more tech channels have been talking about this. Networking Chuck has been wondering like where his channel is going to go, because if you can learn with LLMs, then content needs to become more about personal brands rather than learning stuff specifically. It's going to have to become more about the personalities behind the camera and their story and like their various seasons that they go through is going to become like a soap opera, is what I'm saying. And you can still learn some stuff, but that's the direction that YouTube is headed. What's your daily schedule like? I try not to have a schedule. This is one of the luxuries of being a freelancer. I could make more money if I took on more clients, but I only have a few clients, and I therefore have more time during the day, and I also have more freedom in terms of how I want to structure my day. And so my day doesn't, I know that some people like Louis Rossmann autistically schedule every single 15 minutes of their day. I cannot bear to do that. I tried it for a while. I hated every second of it. I have overarching goals for the day that I want to take care of, and I do them sooner rather than later. And that's generally my my schedule. Generally, the way it looks is I wake up, I do some work, I will go for a long walk, I'll pick up some food, I'll come back, I'll cook the food, I'll eat it, I'll have a little siesta, and then I'll get back to work, and I'll just work until I'm done, and then I will read, I'll draw, I'll spend time with friends, I'll do whatever. And so my days are very unstructured, and yet I still make content essentially every day, and I'm writing books, and I'm writing short stories, and I do programming. Like you don't have to live like a machine in order to be productive. I think that for some people that works really well, just not for me. Have you ever struggled substantially with depression or motivation? Why or why not? Man, these questions are actually great. This was going to be quite long, warning. So have I ever struggled with depression or motivation? I've been sad at times. I don't think I've ever had depression. I have a suspicion that, I grew up in Eastern Europe, and people just didn't really have it, or it was very, very rare. And when I moved to London, loads of people had it. And my suspicion, as I'm not a doctor, but my suspicion is that it has something to do with abstraction. I think that if you live in a very abstract way, you are more likely to get something like that. If you work the land, if you work with your hands, if the things that you do have direct results, if you live in a way that is congruent with nature, I think you are far less likely to get something like that, because you are living closer to how you should be living as a human being. If, however, your job is getting into an air-conditioned car to go to air-conditioned work, and then you eat plastic food, and then you come home and you eat more plastic food, and you look at the TV all night and then you fall asleep, I think that you're living in a way that is very distant from how you should be living. And thus, you are more likely to experience something like that. That is my bro science theory. So I've never really struggled with it. I've had periods where they were bleak, but that was always because of reasons outside of my control. Motivation, yes. However, for motivation, you just need the right motivation. The motivation for me is I hate being constricted. I like freedom. Which is why, the reason why I can make videos every day and I can write books and I can do all these things is because I want to be free. I want to exist as much outside of the system as possible. I want to buy some land. I want to build an adobe house with my own hands, like my great-grandfather did. I want to get a wife, have a bunch of kids, grow our own food, be as independent as possible. And just imagining this, it gives me unlimited motivation. The reason why I didn't have motivation in the past, the reason why I actually started multiple channels that were doing well and I stopped posting on them, is because I didn't have a good reason to post. Because I valued my freedom of not having to post more than some loose concept of success. And so once I found the motivation of family, having kids, freedom, independence from the system, independence from all these problems that we're having, that became real, and that is unbeatable. And so I don't even have to think about it. I just the fact that I've decided that that is important to me is enough for me to have unlimited motivation. So if you're struggling with motivation, it could be because the thing that you thought would motivate you, like money, for example, just isn't a good enough motivator. And for many people, it isn't, including myself. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come back to this comment. I'm going to do some more people. We're going to come back to this because it's actually quite a lot of good questions, but I want to keep it moving a little bit. What was your career trajectory been until now? So I've already addressed part of this question. What do you plan to do from now on? Are you learning anything you're considering interesting right now? So I've already addressed quite a few of these questions. So from now on, what I would love to do is do content and write books. The content is very therapeutic, it's very cathartic, and it's also marketing for the books. And if you want to do anything now, you need marketing, you need eyeballs on you. No matter what you want to do, there's so much competition on everything that if you don't have attention on you, if you don't have eyeballs pointed at you, you will not achieve what you want to do. And so whether it's programming, whether it's writing books, whether it's art, whether it's anything, you need to have an audience if you want to be actually successful. And so the plan from now on is content, writing more books, and working my way financially towards a position where I can buy some land, start building a house, etc. Travel is going to continue to be a part of the plan, because I'm actively figuring out where I want to live in Europe. I've been to a few countries in Europe. I'm going to make a video at some point with some of my favorite photos and stuff that I've taken traveling. I really like a lot of different parts of Europe, and I'm traveling to different locations in different seasons just to get a sense of what it's like there at different parts of the year. So that's the plan from now on. Considering interesting right now, the art bit. So I love how I feel like I'm getting better at art every day. So it's a beautiful feeling. And I'm kind of addicted to this feeling of getting good at stuff. And so every day I pick up pencil and paper, and I practice, and I do stuff from reference and stuff from imagination. I do exercises. I find it to be very therapeutic. And so that is what I'm really interested in at the moment. So let's jump to some more questions. Nicolae Ceausescu, Ionur Suț, now I need to learn a third Romanian name. And of course, I gave him my name, B.C. Ionescu. Let's go. Or Ionescu, however you want to say it. I didn't find an older video about your place of living. Have you chosen Romania? If so, how did you end up there? So I was born here. I'm actually at my parents' house right now. I don't come across as Romanian. I am very aware of this. Even growing up, people from my hometown, people that I went to school with, kept asking me if I'm a foreigner, if I'm from somewhere else, because I don't look particularly Romanian. I just don't have that Romanian vibe, which I completely understand. I've lived in the UK for a long time. As an adult, I moved there when I was 19. London was getting a bit crazy, and so 2020, after being locked into my house for a while, I thought, you know what, I just want to travel. This is ridiculous. And so I started traveling around, and over the past few years, the formula has been 6 months traveling and then 6 months with my family. It's great because I can spend time with my grandparents. They're getting older. I have 3 of my grandparents still alive. They're all in their 80s, and I get to spend time with family, especially my grandparents who are they're nearing the end of their life. And I also can save a bunch of money. And so then I travel, and let's say I spend about £600 a month on rent. If you average that out over a year, it's actually £300, because I don't really pay any rent. For the other 6, I just contribute to bills and stuff. And I also buy my own food, so I'm not leeching off of my parents. Because I do have an income, and it's just that it's remote income. What is the most beautiful place you've ever visited during your travels? This is a hard one. This is a really hard one. I would have to say that it was probably Porto in Portugal. I've been to Finland, I've been to Norway, I've been to a few different countries. For some reason, I just really like Porto. I don't like big cities. It's a fairly large city, which is strange. But I just like it. It just has a really nice vibe to it. And it has I loved Norway. I love Finland. I'm gonna go back to Finland again. Finland is a very close second. I actually really felt at home in Finland. It's the only place in the world where I ever felt at home, which is strange, but it's the only place I ever felt at home was Finland. However, in terms of, maybe it's because I spent more time in Portugal. I spent like 7 months or cumulatively in Portugal over 2 trips. So maybe that's why I like Porto more, because I've seen more of it. But as things stand right now, Porto is my answer. What artificial self-imposed limitations are hindering you from being married and having children? That's a good one. There's a few of them. First of all, financially, I want to be able to just buy some land and start the whole homesteading process. However, there's one more reason, and it's a bit controversial. I personally believe in ancestral memories. I think that you can inherit things from your ancestors, and there's more and more scientific evidence to back this. But I believe that whatever unresolved issues you have when you conceive your children, they're going to inherit those issues. So, for example, my father was quite overweight already when they conceived me. And this is something that I now have to struggle with and fix. And I would rather fix it before I have children so that they don't have to deal with this problem. And so as I make more content, also it's difficult to find the kind of wife that I want, because we just live in a decayed, fallen world. And so it's going to be a bit difficult. It's going to be very difficult to find the right kind of woman that I want to marry and have a bunch of children with. And so, and of course, being healthier would also increase my odds of finding this woman. And so those are the artificial self-imposed limitations that I currently have. Oh, this is perfect, perfectly timed. In your thoughts, which quality in a woman is worth considering while choosing your spouse? The one or few which outweighs pretty much every other flaw, if any? Oh, man. She needs to have the ability to insulate herself from the world as it exists right now. There are many corrupting factors that exist in the world. You could have a fantastic, beautiful wife, but if she spends too much time on TikTok or Instagram, she will become corrupted by the things that she sees there. Humans are very mimetic, and so she would need to be resilient to modern programming, essentially. She would have to be able to look at TikTok. I mean, ideally she wouldn't even have TikTok, but she'd have to be able to look at TikTok, look at the propaganda that she sees and goes, yeah, that's nonsense. That's just complete idiocy. And I think that in itself would be a fantastic way to inoculate yourself as a couple from a lot of problems that exist out there in the modern world. Another feature that I would like her to have, and this might sound kind of strange, but I consider myself to be maybe a little bit like high-functioning autistic. I don't care. I don't have an actual official diagnosis. I don't really care about an official diagnosis. That is how I view myself, and I would like it for her to be in a similar way. It would be really cool if she was also interested in writing, in art, in these sort of things. However, that is not a deal breaker, the interest in art and such. But I would very much like her to, I would like for her mind to work in similar ways to mine. I think that'd be pretty cool. Your smile is intoxicating. Thanks. I don't know if you're, I don't know if you're a guy or a girl. I don't know how old you are, so thanks, I guess. I don't know. One, would you say that one should treat programming like a tree, i.e. start learning low-level languages and end with high-level languages? Two, say someone did this, would you say they should sprinkle AI onto their skill set? So for context, I don't professionally work as a programmer. I learned how to program when I was like 7. That's when I started. The advice that I can give you purely from my personal experience is that it is better to start with low-level programming. I started with Pascal, very nice. The reason why that was beneficial is because Pascal doesn't hold your hand. There are no easy, quick methods. Like there is no dot sort in Pascal. And so if you want to figure out how to do something, you have to learn the algorithm with which to do it, which is more difficult. But if your goal is to become really good at any skill, this is a universal piece of advice for any skill. Always get really good at the fundamentals. You are never too good for the fundamentals. No matter, if it's playing guitar, which I'm also very good at, whether it's writing, whether it's programming, whether it's anything, you should get really good at the fundamentals. The masters always master the fundamentals. And then you can, and here's the thing, once you are really good at low-level stuff, high-level languages are a piece of cake. Like if you want to learn Ruby or Python, if you already know C, like you'll learn Ruby in like 10 minutes. Because high-level languages just abstract away a bunch of low-level stuff, so you don't have to think about it. So for any skill, always start with low level, always start with the fundamentals, always understand what is happening, have deep knowledge. That's always going to serve you. Would you say they should sprinkle AI into their skill set? I guess. I mean, it depends on what you mean by that. If you mean like learn how to use agents, sure. Unfortunately, you're going to have to, purely because that seems to be the direction that things are going in. AI is not going away, unfortunately. Luckily, learning how to use these agents is like, you can do that in an afternoon on a Sunday. Like it's not this meme of, oh, learn AI, bro, you'll be left behind. That is nonsense. Getting good at agents is literally like a 4-hour project on a weekend. Like you, including like the downloading and installing of like, bro, agents, you can learn this stuff immediately. I would be careful about sprinkling AI in the sense that you should be careful what you delegate to the machine. If you're a senior, you can probably delegate a lot more. But if you're a beginner, like you can just replace AI with crutches in this context. Like if you want to get good, if you want to learn how to ride a bike, you probably shouldn't use like the little extra wheels. You'll learn how to ride a bike, but not really. So I would be careful with AI use. You can use it, but bear in mind that you're never going to learn anything if you're using AI for learning. And this applies to anything. If there was one thing you could change in this world permanently, what would it be? Oh my God, that's a good one. I would instill an appreciation for aesthetics in every person. Because I think that would solve a lot of problems. If you truly care about aesthetics, then you also care about nature, because nature is beautiful. And so people would care more about forests, about green spaces. People wouldn't be so accepting of mass industrialization and everything being grey and ugly. And I think that imbuing people with an appreciation for the aesthetic, for beauty, would be a very easy fix for many different problems. And bear in mind, and notice how this isn't a completely totalitarian thing, because I wouldn't imbue them with a desire to make the world beautiful. I would simply imbue them with a love for aesthetics, and then humanity can decide by itself what it wants to do with that. How's life in Romania? Croatia wants to know. It's a mixed bag, just like everywhere else, I guess. Pros and cons. One of the things that will forever annoy me about Romania, I think this is the case with everywhere except for Western Europe or the Western world. Old people have no concept of queuing. At least where I'm at, it's always. I was in a pharmacy earlier, and I walk in, I queue up. Some older guy, like not that, like he was like 60. Like he wasn't old, right? He walks in, he kind of like sneaks next to me, and I was waiting there for like 20 minutes. And when the next cashier opens, he kind of like he just rushes over to it, and he knew that because he's older, I'm not gonna start something with him. And this is like a lot of old people. And look, if he was 90, I'd let him go through. But my dude, we're in a pharmacy. The average age in that place was like 64. Like if I let anyone who's older than me pass, I'm gonna be there all day. So that's also stray dogs. Not a huge fan of stray dogs. Unfortunately, Romania still has a problem with stray dogs, like many other countries, by the way. Greece also has a problem with stray dogs. It's one of those things that no one seems to want to solve. And because I'm a very large, scary man, I trigger the dogs without intending to. So I'll just be walking around and I'll just get like circled by like 2 or 3 dogs. I'm like, oh, great. Now I gotta like get into a bark off with these dogs to get them off of me. So yeah, it's a mixed bag. There's a lot more soft freedom here, I'd say. So you have hard freedoms and soft freedoms. Right? So like in the US, a hard freedom would be rights guaranteed by the Constitution. You have the right to bear arms, you have the right to speak for free speech, and the right to not be compelled to speak, which is part of free speech. You have those in theory, not so much in practice. Whereas Romania has more soft rights or soft freedoms, where maybe those freedoms aren't necessarily written down anywhere, but the culture itself just allows some more freedom. This was very noticeable during the Kuf period, so that is one of the pros of Romania land. Based Frog, hello. Question. Have you tried Ollama or VLLM? Going self-hosted allows the user business to retain most of the value of automation without having to outsource their business. Yep, you're officially a boomer. You're just like my aunt. She has shelves full of books to show off her intelligence. Oh yes. I have this thing called a NAS full of stuff and Zettelkasten. Boomers call it space-age sorcery from the 5th dimension. I mean, I use NeoVim for my notes. I used to use Obsidian. It's just, I like minimizing things. And I noticed that that NeoVim worked just fine. And now I still have Obsidian open. I use it to sync my files. I pay for the Obsidian sync, just so I have like an extra like remote backup of my notes and my writing. Now, Ollama and I've used Ollama. I've used it in the terminal, and I've also used it via Yon, which is a GUI for like interacting with local models. It's okay. I ran it on an M1 MacBook, so I could run pretty good models, not the best ones, but pretty good ones. It's fine. I typically have like a model running a lot of time if I want to ask a quick question about something that I'm trying to figure out. I use these models kind of like a quicker search engine. Yeah, I mean, if you wanna automate your business and do all this stuff, you have to go local. There's just no way around it, because as I mentioned in a different video, the end game of a lot of these companies is to clone your business. Like if you willingly give them all your customer information, all your trade secrets, why wouldn't they clone your business? So if you wanna be insulated from that, yeah, you're gonna have to do offline models. Also, I don't have a NAS because I travel quite a lot, but I have a bunch of local backups. Changing the name to Shut Up Machine from Speak Machine. Okay. This is more of a career-orientated question. I think I remember that in one of your videos you mentioned you do freelance. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I always wondered how does one go about finding clients? I've been meaning to start freelancing as well as a back-end engineer and would love to hear some tips if you have any, because I am completely lost since most YouTube videos I find regarding the topic are just a waste of time when the guy tries to sell you his course or something. That's true. That is quite common on YouTube. Okay, so how do you find clients? The unfortunate answer is that, like, if you ask people who have clients, the way that they found their clients was through some sort of fluke a lot of the times. So my path was join Upwork in 2016, do a bunch of smaller projects for people. Have a portfolio. I had a portfolio of what, this was back when I was a sound designer. Have a portfolio of work that you can show people. And I actually landed my first YouTuber client through that. It was through Upwork. Upwork's been getting worse, just like every other platform. And this advice is about 10 years out of date, I guess, at this point. The answer is that some of the best clients that you're going to find are going to be through like weird means. It's going to be like a friend of a friend. It's going to be like someone posting on an IRC chat. It's going to be something like that. You just have to look for them, which is why this sort of question always has a frustrating answer. There is know that if there was an obvious solution of where to find clients, it would be immediately saturated, which is why there is no clear answer. Any clear answer would immediately be saturated and it would become irrelevant. Try platforms like Upwork. Know that clients on Upwork are often going to try and nickel and dime you. That is a thing. But this is the answer. Keep an eye out is unfortunately the only true answer for this. Missouri Clydesdales, hello. I've been meaning to ask you the meaning of Speak Machine. So BC, what does the B stand for? Bogdan? That's the name of my ex-attorney. He's from Romania and he's 7 foot tall. He used to weigh about 400 pounds, but he has trimmed up to a healthy 280 pounds or so. Okay, so Speak Machine. It's just like a little random idea that I had where, like, I want to learn the secrets of the machinery. Speak to me, machine. Speak machine. That was the idea. It was initially about programming. It was literally like a programming metaphor, like, speak to me, machine, show me your secrets. And as my channel becomes a lot more of a personal brand, the name still works because it's about the machinery of reality revealing itself to me. I think it's a nice little metaphor. And that's the meaning behind it. BC. So B does stand for Bogdan. Yep, that is correct. Bogdan is just the Slavic equivalent of Theodore, because Bog means God, Dan means gift, and it's like Slavic. And Theodore, Theo, God, as in theology, Dor, gift. So Bogdan or Theodore just means gift from God. C just stands for Christian or Christian, and therefore that my name would be Bogdan Cristian Ionescu. Or if you're in Romania, it would be Ionescu Bogdan Cristian, because in Romania you do the surname first, which is something that I keep forgetting when I'm here. Also, 7 foot tall that's tall. I'm not quite 7. I'm not quite a. Actually, no, do you know what? No, I'm practically 7 foot. Let's just say that. I'm practically 7 foot. Not all of us watch TV. Some of us like to read. Real question, what's your favorite book? He said his favorite book is Burning Swords by Leon Degrelle. I did not say that. I don't know about that book. I'd have to look it up. I think he's joking though. Favorite book. Oh baby. This is a bit of a boring answer, but it would have to be Dune. Closely followed by a second, which I think is a kind of a weird one for many people, but it is The Ecologic Envoy by L.E. Modesi Jr. I remember I saw the artwork for it, and I thought, man, I need to get this. I need to get this ASAP. And I got it and I read it, and it is pretty phenomenal. Link down below to these books, by the way. I mean, for Dune, I read Dune, the first time I read it, I was 13. My father introduced me to Dune. And it was unlike anything I'd ever read up until that point. I didn't understand as much as I do now from it because I was 13. Of course, I very much resonated with Paul. In my mind, I was Paul Atreides, which is funny because that's exactly what you're supposed to do. And then you read the other books and you go, oh no. but you're supposed to relate to Paul. And then the warning that Frank Herbert gave with the Dune books is the danger of a charismatic leader and how he can take you down very dangerous paths. And that's what Dune is. It's you read the first book and you think, wow, he's such a Giga Chad. I wish I can be like Paul. And then you read the other books and you realize, I'm not going to spoil it in case you haven't read them, but there's a reason why Dune is an absolute cornerstone of science fiction. The Ecologic Envoy is part of a trilogy, quadrilogy. It's like 3 or 4 books. The premise of the story is that you have a galactic empire. You have a planet which doesn't want to be part of the empire, but the empire's like nah, you're going to be part of the empire. And then the planet uses technology, let's say, to secede from the empire in a way that is very brutal and very thought-provoking. And I would 100% recommend you read the series. That is phenomenal, especially if you like science fiction with like a little bit of like a spy twist, like sort of like twist to it. It's very soft. I prefer soft science fiction. Dune is very soft science fiction. The Ecologic Envoy or the Ecologian series in general is very soft science fiction, but it's really well written. It's really cool. I recommend it. Link down below. Okay, a couple of questions. What do you think about the modern claim of too many developers/artists focusing on small things like world building instead of characters and story? Did these thoughts occur to you when writing your own books? Okay, interesting. So, world building instead of characters or story. So the way that I think about my stories is, so every story that I'm going to write science fiction wise is going to be in the same universe. And with each book, with each story, I add more lore to this universe. The way in which I write is very schizo, is very like random ideas. And then like remove, like I'm very brutal about removing ideas. If I get a better idea, I'll just remove an older idea and I'll replace it, because everything is in service of the story. So I do think that the story is king. However, I think that if you want your worlds to feel real when you write fiction, I think that the world needs to be unyielding. It needs to not bend to the story. In other words, the technology that exists in this world cannot randomly bend whenever it is convenient for it to bend. The world has to exist independent of the story. However, I would be careful, like whenever I introduce some new element to my world building, it's always because it is directly relevant to the story. I would never mention something in a book about the world in which these things take place if that wasn't directly relevant to the plot, Generally speaking, in the book, sometimes I'll add things that are going to be addressed in future books, like in Protectorate. If you've read the book, there's this scene which looks like a loose end, where one of the characters talks to another character, and there's a weird power dynamic, and something is exchanged that's not really addressed in the book itself, but that will be addressed later on. And so right now, the second book that I'm working on right now, Terminals, has a lot more world building because a lot more things are developing. A lot more things are developing. And so the world building occurs naturally as the story is being told. I would never mention something about the world if it's not directly relevant to the story. And so I think that I think you should be careful. I think that the world building should happen in the same rate as the story and the characters. It shouldn't be this like 100-page monologue where I tell you everything about the hobbits and all the thing that they do, and it's like, bro, just get to the story, please. I don't want to learn about the hobbits yet because I don't know who they are, right? Like, I know, I'm going to get hate for that one, but that's fine. 2, do you plan on branching out from the general self-help topic and style to instead talk more about theory on things like writing and philosophy? Seems like a few of your videos are just on the same couple of topics, and I was wondering if you were willing to branch out. Yes, I have to be careful about that though, because I have an audience, and so what I would love to happen is for my channel to become more about how to become a polymath, because that is what I feel like in my core. I feel like a polymath. I like being really good at a bunch of different things. I love the cross-pollination that occurs when you're good at a bunch of different things. But my fear is that if I quickly start talking too much about writing to my programming audience, a bunch of people might lose interest. And so I think a better way of going about it is slowly transitioning into these things so that the people who stay because they like my personality, they like the community, they like the videos become kind of a habit, like something cozy that they do instead of purely learning. Like I would love to have a channel kind of like PewDiePie's, which I think is a dream of every YouTuber, but not in terms of size necessarily, but in terms of like he covers whatever he's interested in, and people watch because they like him, because they have rapport with him. So yes, I will be branching. I've already been branching out a lot more recently, I think. But yeah, I will. Like I watched a video talking about the symbolism of owls. I think that's that's a good example of like just things that I'm interested in. I'll talk more about philosophy, more about art, more about a lot of different things. When I start building my homestead, I'm going to start covering that. I think a lot of programmers are very interested in independence and homesteading. When I have a family, I'm going to start talking about that, how I'm raising my children, how we're teaching them, how we're homeschooling them. Like it's going to become, the channel is going to evolve with my life essentially. So yes, I will be branching out. I think that's the way to do it anyway, given the current state of YouTube. How much time on average do you spend on writing per day? On average, it's very little because there's a lot of writers, or many writers have this thing where they force themselves to write a certain amount of hours per day, because if they don't, they're just never gonna do any writing. Also, I hope you can't hear my mom putting the dishes away in the background. I don't work like that because the people who write every day tend to be something called pantsers. So in writing, you have plotters and pantsers. Plotters are people who plot everything, whereas pantsers are people who make things up as they go along. What's his face? Stephen King is a famous pantser. He makes the stories up word by word. I did that for the first draft of my first book, and I hated the fact that I I had to read my own book like 12 times because I kept making changes, and then I kept having to go back and read it to make sure that everything still made sense. So for the second draft, and after that, I stopped and I took a few steps back and I planned everything, and then I rewrote parts of it for it to make more sense. So the process is spend a few weeks or a few months even accumulating ideas, spend a few days sorting and ironing out the ideas, and then spend maybe a week or two actually doing the writing. And so when I do the writing, I can, on a good day, I can do like 10,000 words. So if you do that every day for like a week, you have a novel. In terms of time, it probably just like a few hours, because obviously you're not writing you're not writing the entire time. You're writing, okay, you think, okay, that'd be cool, right, okay, let's just delete that, replace it with this. So maybe when I'm actively writing, it's a few hours per day, but the rest of the time, it's just sporadic. It's in the back of my mind. Things are bubbling up to the surface of my conscious mind, and then I write them down very quickly before they disappear. Would you be willing to collaborate with viewers on videos or come up with some sort of community project? I think there are some interesting ideas there besides the daily check-ins. I would love that. I wouldn't know exactly what to do as a community project. And as my audience becomes more diversified, that gets even more complicated. I think an interesting project might be to do a book or a story which the audience helps me write. I think that would be really cool. I'd have to be very careful with it because I've planned out a bunch of books in advance, more or less. And so there'd be things where I wouldn't be able to do anything because I'm kind of locked in by previous decisions in previous books and previous stories. But would that be cool? Let me know if you'd be interested in doing a community story where maybe I can do polls on my channel. And so, like, you know, should this happen, or should this happen, or should that happen? Vote, and then I can write the story based on the votes. I think that'd be pretty cool. That'd be quite nice to try out. 20 Brazilian dollars. Thank you. There's no question, but thank you very much. Thank you for the support. I really do appreciate it. Which games consoles have you owned over the past 33 years? Favorite game on each one? I was a poor boy growing up. I didn't really have the Nintendos or whatever. I guess, well, as a kid, I had this Eastern European knockoff console. What was it called? Yes, Turco Laurențiu. The console was called Terminator 2. Yes. This is the one. This was the one. Oh my god, dude. You could play the duck game where you would shoot the duck. That was epic. My favorite game on it, I think it was called, it was literally like Alien versus Predator, I think. I can't find it, but it was a game, it was like you had to run away from the Alien franchise, and you had to like go up like ladders and stuff to get away from him. Other than that, later on in my adulthood, I bought a PS3 so I could play The Last of Us 1. And then I owned a PS4 and I played a lot of The Witcher 3 on it. And I also played it on my PC as well. So that's the answer on that one. I didn't have, like, I remember when I was in uni, I wanted to buy like a Game Boy. I wanted to play Pokemon, but I couldn't afford it. So I had an iPod Touch on which I could run an emulator. And so I played Pokemon Fire Red on that a lot on the bus to uni every day. That was good memories. You talked a bit about your accent, but I do really need some help, some deep dive, if you will. Numa descuro que nu știu ce să fac. We need a proper Vim tutorial. The cat one wasn't enough. Now I'm lost inside someone's basement. How to deal with anxiety and imposter syndrome, and more reviews, please. It can be anything. I like your voice. Thumbs up. Oh yeah, your relationship with pen and paper. Okay, thanks. So, my accent. I am actually Romanian, despite people don't typically believe me. Sunt român, sunt român, sunt din România. As you can tell, I read Nu mă descurc, nu știu ce să fac, nu știu ce să fac. I've got a speech impediment. It's a lot more evident in Romanian than it is in English. For some reason, it comes out when I speak Romanian. If you want to improve your accent, spend time with people who have the accent that you want, or listen to people who have who have this accent. That's the only way to do it. It's just exposure. When I moved to London for university, I had a Canadian accent. It was a lot more like this. I sounded a lot more like this. Hi, my name's Christian. Hi, I'm from America. My name's Christian. And then they said, we've got societies. Would you like to join the Romanian society? I said, why would I want to do that, bro? I just got out of Romania. Can I just meet some people from here, please? And so I met people from there, and that's how I got the accent over time. More Vim tutorials are coming. Anxiety and imposter syndrome. Anxiety in what context? If you mean anxiety in the context of imposter syndrome, yes, I can give you some advice. I learned this when I played guitar a lot. I played in bands when I was in high school, played in front of hundreds of people at a time. The best advice that I can give you is to do drills over and over and over until you can do something in your sleep. So for example, if you play a guitar solo in front of 500 people, it's pretty intimidating. 500 people are giving you their complete attention. Some of them may be even rooting for you to fail. And so if you want to play a solo with hundreds of notes and play it correctly, what needs to happen is you need to get so good at the thing that it's impossible. Like you're not even thinking about it. You're just playing, like you can play with your eyes closed. Like you're doing your scales, like you're practicing. You just need to get so good at it. You need to do it so much that it becomes second nature. You would never question your ability to pick up an item. You know that your motor function can just go whoop, 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 right? Because you've done it a billion times. You need to apply that to whatever else you're doing. To the point where you can just do it in your sleep. That's how you get rid of imposter syndrome. Unless you're doing something very abstract. I was watching a documentary about Miyazaki, the man behind Studio Ghibli. He's constantly plagued with anxiety and with imposter syndrome. He's literally the most famous animator ever, and yet he says, "Oh, I just want this film to be good. I just don't want to be shamed by this new film that I'm working on." Like you're 80 something, you've made so many films, you've won Oscars, you're literally like loved around the world, and your new film and your new film, and you're afraid that your new film is going to embarrass you. Maybe there's some level of imposter syndrome that you just can't get rid of. Maybe it's just built into us to be anxious if we're doing very abstract things. So the answer is deal with it, I guess. It's okay to be anxious sometimes. It's okay to feel like an imposter sometimes. It's not a problem. More reviews, yes, I will be doing more reviews. Your relationship with pen and paper. My current relationship with pen and paper is that is this. I'm not going to show you the contents of this thing yet. This is one of the free sketchbooks that I'm filling out as part of my 30-day challenge to get better at art. And so every day I I draw on paper with pencil. I love it. It is very therapeutic. I don't write with pen on paper. I prefer keyboard. But for drawing, I just do it every day, and that's my relationship with it. I was also thinking the same way. Some more Vim programming vids might help with brand, image, and reach, unless your plan is to shift away from that. I'm not really experienced in this kind of stuff, though. I think Vim is hot topic, or at least it was. AI may have reduced Vim's relevancy. Yeah, so AI is the problem. AI has reduced the relevancy of any kind of educational content. because you can ask it questions and it's going to give you semi-competent answers. Or at least if you're a beginner, it's going to give you answers that you think are competent because you don't know any better. And this is for any skill, right? If I asked it about architecture, I wouldn't question it because I don't know about architecture. So I think that AI is kind of killing the educational side of YouTube. My videos are always going to have like a tech flavor to them, but yeah, I'm trying to navigate this weird period of YouTube that we find ourselves in. So I'm kind of playing it by ear because it's all changing very fast. So any kind of plan wouldn't really make sense. Okay, so let's go back to this initial set of questions. How about any kind of addiction or the common social media addiction? This is something I've never had a major problem with until recently, probably because before I was addicted to learning and programming for several years, lol. I know this kind of addiction swapping is common, and a lot of people will say that everyone has their vice. What is your vice if you have one? And don't mind sharing. So my vice has clearly been eating sweets, specifically, for a long time. I think that people who are big-brained are more likely to become addicted to things. I think addiction is a symptom of us living in an unnatural world. I think that addictions are a lot more difficult. The closer you live to nature, the more difficult it is to have addictions. Addictions always come from free time and excess. For example, hunter-gatherers didn't really have much to be addicted to, did they? Because if every day is wake up, look for food, eat food, and then chill the rest of the day because you can't really preserve food, and socialize and, spend time with your wife in the evening, I guess, there's just not much to be addicted to. Any kind of substance typically has to be processed. Like if you want like really like hard substances like that, those typically have to be processed, and so you need some sort of industry for them. Stuff that you can smoke, again, that stuff doesn't necessarily grow everywhere in Europe, and so I just think that the closer you are to nature, the more difficult it is to become addicted to this kind of stuff. My addiction that I have, is an addiction to telling stories and building worlds in my head. I've been doing this for a long time before I even started writing. And the more you do this, the more you want to put them out there for people to enjoy. And so that is an addiction that I have that I do like. Do you have a backup plan? Common sense, but some people have actually advised against it in order to maintain focus and whatnot. If so, what is it? I have a very loose backup plan. If this whole content, writing books thing doesn't work out, I have multiple family members who work in the trades, and so I'll just do something in that field. I do like the idea of producing something with my hands that you can see. I love writing stories, but they're very ephemeral. Everything that I do, content, stories, it's all very ephemeral. It's very difficult. You can't really touch them. And so, yeah, I would just do something like that. I have no problem doing it. And I think that if you have the mind of an engineer, you're going to crush it in any kind of field like that, where there's always been a lack of discipline in these fields because they've been looked down upon. And so the really smart people typically just did anything but trades. I think that's changing, but yeah, I would just do trades, I guess. I don't want to do office work. I'm not huge on office work. What kind of music are you into, if any, TV shows, movies? I kind of avoid music. I spoke about this on the podcast with Sylvan. I generally kind of avoid music. I used to play music. I did a music engineering degree. I guess I really like metal, like more modern metal. I try and limit it to like instrumental whenever possible. So, for example, I really like. I really like the instrumentals for like Humanity's Last Breath. I think they do some really cool stuff. I like some Architects. Again, really cool stuff. But I try to listen to Polyphia. Polyphia is a great one because I always listen to instrumentals whenever possible because I don't like lyrics affecting me mentally. Polyphia is great because it's just instrumental music. So yeah, like metal stuff that's guitar based, heavy guitar based especially. I'll sometimes listen to sci-fi drones, especially when I'm writing. I find that it helps put me in the right state of mind if I listen to like science fiction, very minimalist, very sort of spacey drone type stuff. But generally I avoid music. TV shows and movies, I love science fiction, who could have guessed. Not huge on I like some fantasy, but generally heavy science fiction. I love anime. Right now I'm binge watching some of Studio Ghibli stuff, which I just haven't had a chance to get to. Fantastic stuff. Yeah, but I love anime. I think it is, especially modern anime, because it is devoid of Western politics. The kind of stuff that gets forced into Western TV shows and such isn't present in anime, or at least not in most of it. And so I think it's just a much cleaner form of entertainment. Take on modern politics, global politics, local politics. Yes, I've never voted on purpose. I don't think that voting does anything. I think that the solution to this stuff is to just improve yourself and those around you. You cannot vote yourself your way out of anything. That's as much as I'll say about that. I'm trying to avoid, like, obviously if you write science fiction, if you talk about tech and stuff, it's difficult to avoid politics, but I'm not a fan of the direction that the world is going in. Let's just say that. What's Romania like? How does it compare to other places you visited? Have you ever visited the US? Is there anywhere in particular you really like to visit that you haven't yet? Romania's a mixed bag, just like every other country. It has a lot of unspoiled nature, but that nature is also dangerous because of it. Like it's like you could die from like wild animals like killing you. Like you want to be careful. Like if you're going to go hiking in Transylvania, never do it solo. Always do it with a group, because there are bears, there are wolves. You don't want to go alone. How does it compare to other places like you visited? Romania is just a lot more wild, as in like there's just a lot more nature. Like Finland, for example, Norway has a lot of nature, but there's nothing dangerous in the forests, at least not anywhere near where people are. Maybe Finland less so. Finland does have wolves, but in Norway, like I was freaking out. I was like, "Are you sure I can go?" They're like, "Yeah, you can go like really deep." There's like occasional moose. Just avoid them, you'll be fine. So Romania is interesting. I'm here because I have family here. I don't know if I would have picked Romania if I wasn't from here. But yeah, it's interesting. It has its pros and cons. I've never been to the US. However, I would love to visit. Yes, I would love to go to I would love to visit California. I know that it's a fallen place now, but as you may have noticed, my first book and my first short story take place in California, and a part of the second book takes place in California. I just have a very sort of unrealistic idea of it because of Philip K. Dick books, and because I grew up watching The O.C. But I would love to visit California 100%. What is high up on your bucket list other than career or self-improvement stuff? Going to California? I mean, unironically, just seeing California is high up there. Seeing Iceland is high up there as well. And getting started on a homestead. I'm just not there financially. I would love to do something like that. There's also a lot of uncertainty right now. Like I'm kind of reticent to even if I had the money right now, just to buy land somewhere would be kind of risky because of current situations going on. Like you don't want to build a house just for it to be demolished by a drone. So who knows? What did you want to be growing up? Well, this is a perfect last question. What did I want to be growing up? I wanted to be free. I wanted to be free from the shackles of society. I wanted to do my own thing and to not be, to be as unaffected as possible by people around me. I would say that I've managed to achieve this to a much higher degree than most people. However, I am nowhere near where I would like to be yet. And that's fine, because life is about the journey or whatever. It's not about it's not about destination. Once you get there, you'd want something else anyway. Nothing is ever enough. And so I wanted to be free, and I would say that the overarching theme of my life and my approach to living is to obtain more freedom. Now, this video's been long. That's fine. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.